Hi everyone, welcome to the Movieception Show. My name is Fariba, and today I'll be doing my trailer reaction for Fast 10. And now I typically don't do a lot of trailer reactions outside of Marvel and Star Wars, but I just felt like this one really warranted one since it is a long-going franchise that's just been, well renowned for so many years. And I mean, there's just a lot of things for me to say about it just because, I mean, it is a pretty cool action-packed franchise, but also sometimes it gets really ridiculous in ways that it has, evolved, especially because this is a franchise that started off as street racing and now it just became a whole action-packed superhero type of franchise. And there's just a lot of things to kind of just take in, especially with each film that really kind of exceeds things each and every time. So, without further ado, let's do the trailer reaction for Fast 10.
I know that this road has been.
That's Rita Moreno.
And yet here you
Why
are,
is she in the film?
building this magnificent family.
What's going on in that head of yours?
Something little piece of it. He said, Dad, you're not afraid of anything. But I am. I'm afraid of losing someone I love.
Dominic Toretto, you're about to learn all about fear. Boom! You built such a beautiful life, filled with love and family.
I never got that chance.
You stole that from me.
Okay.
My future.
Oh, so he's Reyes' family member? I'm assuming
My
brother?
family. And now, I'm gonna break yours.
Oh.
Piece by piece.
Oh, wow, okay. Why are they in Rome?
He's coming for you with everything.
There's Brie, okay.
What's the plan, Dom?
I'm not sure anymore.
Oof.
One of us might not come back from this. But we have to fight.
Okay, so he's back. Okay.
Never accept death when suffering is owed.
What?
Armed and dangerous. Ain't too many could bang with us. Label us notorious.
It's a setup.
He's trying to tear us apart.
Our situation is type 1. What you gonna do? Fight or run?
Winning used to be about winning. We raced for respect.
Are we going back to street
Today,
racing?
I raced to stop the bloodbath.
Oh my.
That's the problem with having such
Oh wow, we're going back to the
You
basics.
choose
Oh,
as you save.
okay, we're going back to the basics. Hey, finally.
Let's race.
Okay. Okay, ride or die. Yeah, we know. Yeah, we know. Oh, so he's in it too. Oh, okay.
You still know how to drive? What do you think?
Shit.
It's showtime. Here we go.
Game recognizes game.
Shit.
I'm coming for you, son.
Oh no. No.
Here they come.
You will never be able to break my family.
No. Oh my god. No. Oh my. Okay.
I'm learning
Oh, she's back too. Cypher's back. Oh shit. Oh, the end of the road. Okay. So that was the Fast 10 trailer right there, and there's just a lot to take in. I mean, for one thing, I will say, Jason Momoa just looks pretty incredible as the villain. I think that's probably one of the most convincing things I get out of this trailer. I mean, as to how they managed to do it, that's going to be a lot of questions because, I mean, I believe the character's name was Reyes from Fast Five, and that was basically the whole Rio de Janeiro scenario that we had, right? So where they were basically like fugitives in that film, and I think that was probably the film that I thought was, the turning point of the series, because like I think that was what really showed the Fast and Furious series as something that can actually be a very good action film. And I felt like Fast Five was the one film, I feel like that was the turning point of the whole series, that I actually saw something really good. I remember that from so long ago. But yeah, from this trailer, like it seems like they're kind of going back to, they're basically like going back to everything that's happened. Like it seems as if they are kind of putting everything together and trying to, I guess, clear up some loose ends. And it seems like the best way to do is really just go back to the films. Like you can see a lot of nostalgia that comes out of this trailer. Like for one thing, we do see a lot of Paul Walker flashback scenes, or sorry, Brian flashback scenes, which was played by the late Paul Walker. And I'm assuming that a lot of it's going to be sort of a dedication to Paul Walker, since this seems to be sort of the beginning of just ending off the franchise that did start off with Paul Walker, right? Like he was one of the most crucial players and really setting up the Fast and Furious franchise. So it makes a lot of sense why they're really going back to the basics of things, because in this trailer, like, yeah, we do have a pretty good set villain like Momoa, who again looks pretty incredible for the most part. Again, just a lot of things I do feel like are a bit convoluted, but even with that being the case, he seems pretty awesome. Like, I mean, the fact that they're really directing him back to Fast Five, and somehow he's going to, basically from what it looks like, it's going to be a revenge quest by the villain, so against Toretto. So that's what it seems like it's going to be about. So lots of questions about that, but not even with just that, but it seems like this is a series that's going back to the basics as well. Like literally we see a whole scene where they're basically street racing, and I'm just like, wow, this is literally going back to the basics of what this franchise was about, which is street racing. And it seems like we're finally kind of getting that aspect of it back in this film, which is great, because like I feel like this franchise has kind of lost its identity a little bit. And like this is supposed to be a franchise that is based upon not just cars per se, but the whole big dealio of this franchise that really made it so defining is that it is about street racing, right? The street racing aspect is what really sort of started this whole trend, this whole culture of it. And it's because of this film that really set the ordeal of it. And it's like, after, I think like with Fast Five we did get a bit of that street racing glimpse, but I think after 5 it did sort of lose that identity. So it's really nice to see the franchise go back to sort of the basics of it, like, hey, this is a franchise that used to be, street racing. Like that's how it all started. So at least I will appreciate that for what it's doing, because it is, again, the beginning of the end, right? I believe that if this is Fast 10, then I'm going to assume that 11 is going to be the last one. I'm not really following up on the Fast and Furious franchise that closely, but I do believe it is ending very soon. And if it is the beginning of the end, then that means that, with Fast 10, it's really kind of going back to just like the important bits of what made this franchise, which is, again, the street racing. So it was really nice to see a nod to that, because again, I just feel like this franchise kind of did lose its identity a little bit, especially because it did start to get really ridiculous, which we're about to get in a second. But yeah, having said that, Jason Momoa looks great. It's awesome seeing him playing a villainous character, which I don't know if he's ever done that before. So that's gonna be very, I'm gonna be very curious about that. Again, I feel like I think out of anything that happens in this trailer, I think he is the star of this trailer. Like they really showcase just how threatening he is, how menacing he is, but also remember, he is really vengeful, right? I think that's what they really had to pin down in terms of his character, and he really just nails it. I think that just from the looks of it, it looks like he's going to be a very formidable villain in this film. Like he isn't going to be like someone like Jason Momoa, or like Jason Momoa's Shaw, or what was it, Jacob, that was played by John Cena. I don't think they're going to be that type of characters where there is something that's a bit more sentimental about them, or that will allow them to change. I hope that maybe he is going to be a bit more of a set villain where it's just there is no course of changing him. So we'll see more of that. Like I feel like every time we see these Fast and Furious movies, anytime we see a villain, somehow they are redeemable in some ways, and I just felt like that just become too much of a recurring theme, and they really need to change up some things. That, hey, sometimes some villains just cannot be redeemable at all, right? And I feel like that could be the case with Jason Momoa's character, but we'll see about that. But again, just from the trailers, it seems pretty clear that he is someone who's going to be very menacing, threatening, and who knows, probably not a redeemable character from the looks of it. So that's all to say about Jason Momoa right there. In terms of just like the whole, other aspects, I mean, we got a first footage of Brie Larson, so that's, I don't think they really showed too much of her, but I'm very curious to see where her character is going, aside from the fact that, it seems like she might be partnering up with the Torettos and the crew, but I don't really get much of an idea what's going on. I don't know if she's working with CIA or something like that. That's gonna be interesting. Another thing is that I realized that they really brought every character from the franchise into this film, right? They brought Jason Statham, who played Shaw. They brought I believe they brought Helen Mirren. I believe I saw her. And then I also believe I saw John Cena, who played Jacob in, I believe, the last film. So it seems like they're bringing back everybody, except I have a lot of question marks regarding Dwayne Johnson, because he did appear in 2 films, and of course there's that whole behind the scenes tussle between him and Vin Diesel. So it seems like he's going to be the one person who's going to be very absent from this 10th film that's supposed to sort of wrap up the Fast and Furious franchise, which is kind of, it's kind of sucks, because I mean, let's be honest, like, one of the things that made Fast 5 so great was because Dwayne Johnson was in this film. So that's going to be a bit of an interesting thing, that they're basically bringing back everybody except for Dwayne Johnson to really wrap up the franchise. Again, they even put like in some flashback scenes for Paul Walker to really be like, hey, we want to highlight everyone, and then there's just Dwayne Johnson, who's just like being cut off from everything. So that was kind of But like, we even see Cypher, right? We see Charlize Theron playing Cypher again. I don't know what they're gonna do with her character. I feel like they're really putting in everything in this film. So I think that's like my big concern with the Fast 10 film right here, is that they're bringing in everything in this film that I don't know if there's gonna be enough time to really set up, or to even just like at least give just a good film, right? Just a really good action film that would somehow at least make sense in some sort. I mean, this is a franchise again that has really taken ridiculousness to a new level, without a doubt, and I feel like that's probably what they're gonna keep on doing. Like, I feel like that's become a huge appeal for them, that they have to make sure that each film becomes more and more ridiculous. And I'm gonna talk about that one scene in a second, but the fact that they are bringing all these characters back, I feel like that's something that I'm a bit concerned about. Like, I get it that they're trying to end off the series, but also like, there's so many characters. Do you even have enough time to even bring them all in and just like, set up a story that makes sense, right? At least try to make some sense out of this film, right? But yeah, we'll see how that all goes. Again, it seems pretty promising for the most part. Like, I can really get the sense of this urgency, this, just how high stakes it is in terms of what's going on, especially because they are dealing with a villain like Jason Momoa, who's very vengeful. But let's go to the action scenes. I mean, the action scenes look pretty awesome. I mean, I feel like that's become its own appeal for the Fast and Furious franchise. I mean, I can't wait to see what the street racing scene's gonna look like between Vin Diesel and Jason Momoa. But I also see a lot of great scenes that looks like they're in Rome. So I wonder why they're in Rome. I mean, I'm gonna assume that has to do with like their family. I don't know, like, why are they in Rome? But there are a lot of Rome scenes I'm assuming. Like, there's even one scene where Letty is driving her motorcycle through the streets of Rome. So I wonder what's going on. Letty looks amazing. I mean, I feel like Michelle Rodriguez has really just amped it up as Letty, and she's been getting a lot more screen time in these films. And again, I feel like it's really awesome to see her being kick-ass and badass in these films, and seeing her again have her own fight scene against Cypher. That was awesome to see. So I can't wait to see more of Michelle Rodriguez just kicking ass in this film. And let's talk about that car versus helicopter scene, because that was just super ridiculous. Wow, like, I felt like when I was watching the whole, like, the car just, backing up away out of the helicopter, I was getting, like, Age of Ultron vibes, where, like, Black Widow is, like, in her motorbike, and she gets out of that, out of the Quinjet, and I was getting all those vibes right there. Like, that was what it reminded me of. Like, I mean, I'm gonna assume that there's even been far more movies that have had cars, I feel like even Uncharted had this. Did they not? I feel like Uncharted had this, but this one was just super ridiculous, because not only does Dom's car fly out of the helicopter, but then with the, anchors that were going, like, from the helicopters coming after the car, all of a sudden you just see Dom just blow up 2 helicopters by just driving. That was pretty ridiculous. I mean, that's the level of ridiculousness and silliness that we want from the Fast and Furious franchise, right? So that was a bit ridiculous, but I guess really expected. I mean, I'm gonna assume that's not gonna be the only ridiculous part. Who knows? They might take the car. They might take not just take the car to the moon again, but maybe take it to Jupiter or something. We'll see about that. But yeah, that's all I really have to say about it. I mean, there's just so much to really just take in from this film. They're really bringing back everyone except for Dwayne Johnson, but they're basically bringing back everyone. It's pretty clear that they're gonna be wrapping up the Fast and Furious franchise for good. Although I feel like it should have just ended back in 7 when, Paul Walker had passed, but we'll see what they're going to do with that as well, because they are referencing him a lot in this film. So I don't know if they did a similar thing with like bringing his brothers into this film to kind of give him a bit more of like, a last minute, farewell, but we'll see how that goes. And yeah, that's all I have to say about it. Again, pretty action-packed, really ridiculous in some ways, but also some really great action scenes, as well as the fact that Jason Momoa looks pretty menacing as the villain. I feel like the highlight was Momoa. So that's all I have to say about the Fast 10 trailer right there. Let me know what your thoughts are. Have you seen the trailer yourself? I mean, you've probably already seen it right here. What are your thoughts? How do you think about Momoa as a villain? Do you think he seems really convincing? Do you think he's as menacing as you would have thought or didn't think? What do you think about almost everyone returning? What are your thoughts about Rita Moreno and Helen Mirren and why they're involved in this film? What does this mean for John Cena as well as Jason Statham's characters? Why are they in this film? Do we think we're probably going to see Dwayne Johnson then, considering that almost everyone is in this film? Are we going to see more of these flashback scenes of Paul Walker? What are your thoughts about that one scene with the car versus helicopter scene that just was really ridiculous? What are your thoughts about that? And just overall, what do you think about the whole movie and the trailer itself? What are your vibes about it? What do you think about it? Let me know in the comments down below, and make sure to like and subscribe.